Hi everyone, welcome to another watercolour portrait tutorial. So this is the reference photo that I've used for this painting. I think it's probably AI generated, it's a little bit too perfect, but we're just going to use it as a guide. And this is the end result that I ended up with. So there's things I would like to change about it. It's not perfect, but I've got some nice details on the hair there. I was happy with the skin tones and things. So yeah, come and paint along. This is the paper that I use. It's by Canson. It's quite a white paper, quite a smooth paper. It's still cold pressed, 100% cotton, but you just use whatever you prefer to use. It's absolutely fine. So I've transferred my sketch onto the paper and I'm just mixing up some skin tone there. So I've got some Quin Rose. I can never pronounce the full name, Quinacridone or something. So I'm not going to bother trying, I'll just get into a bit of a tongue tie. So I'm just going to call it Quin Rose. It's in the list of materials below the video. So I've just mixed a very watery mix of that Quin Rose, and I'm just adding some of this cadmium free orange onto the palette just to make a nice, nice pale Caucasian skin tone just for the base. So I've got a scrap piece of paper here, there's not much space on it now. I'm just doing a little swatch just to make sure that I'm happy with that, which I am. So I'm just taking this silver black velvet brush in the size 12. I've added a little bit more water to it. I've wet the brush and then just popped that into the paint. I've soaked the brush in the paint and I'm just going straight onto the paper. So I'm not doing wet on this paper. If it was Beihong or Arches, I'd probably do wet on wet, but I'm just trying, because this is a smoother paper, I'm just having a little go at doing the wet on dry technique just to see if I can get a smooth skin tone base using this paper and this paint colour. So I'm just going to do a light wash over the whole face. I'm not going to go over the whites of the eyes or the teeth. So I'm working quite quickly here. I don't want to have any blooms or any patchiness or anything, so the quicker I work, the smoother the skin's going to be, this base layer is going to be. I'm just going to go over the lips as well, not too worried about the lips. They're going to be like a rosy red colour anyway, quite a dark colour, so it doesn't really matter. Just avoid those teeth though. Just carefully fill in all those little sections of skin. So you can see it's gone on quite smooth, just with this wet on dry technique. Around the chin, onto the neck. She's got like a collarbone showing there through her shirt. So I'm going to have to do some shading on that as well. Apologies, my dog probably kicked the camera stand there. Make sure you do the ear. And then you've got the shirt there as well, so just be careful to go around the edge of that too. So that was really quick. It's gone on really smooth. Just making sure I go right up to the edge of that pencil mark there. You see any little puddles appearing, just dry the brush and then just soak them up. It's soaked into the paper quite nicely. It's no patchiness or anything. So we're going to let that dry. You can speed it over the hairdryer if you want to. I usually have a couple of paintings on the go, so I usually just leave it a few hours. Sometimes if I've only got one on the painting boards, then I will dry it with a hairdryer. So I'm just taking that same colour again, the Quin Rose. I've done quite a lot of water to it. And this time I'm taking some yellow ochre. So I'm just experimenting here with different skin tones, different mixes that you can do. The Quin Rose is quite a nice one to start with. You can add it, you can add orange to it, you can add Pyrrole Red to it, you can add yellow ochre, you can do skin tones, you can do the lip colours like nice lipsticks and things with it, so it's a really handy colour to have in your palette if you can get hold of it. So you can see it's still like a pinky rosy skin colour, but it's just a little bit of a different tone that was on the that was on the palette previously and what's on the painting already. So this might make some nice shadows with this. So I'm using my Jennifer Rose mop brush in the size 10. The size 12 silver brush would just be a little bit too big for this this part. So I'm just kind of adding some shadows in. It looks quite dark at the moment, but it will brighten up as it dries. So don't panic straight away. I'm just taking my time here. I'm going to do little sections one at a time just to blend these shadows into the skin tone that's already on the paper. So just clean the brush, and I've just dried it so it's barely damp. I'm just tickling the edges here just to see how it blends into the paper below, and it works really nicely. It's a really nice paper to work with, really easy paper to work with. I find some papers just fight with you as you're going, but this one just seems to do what you're asking it to do. Handles lots and lots of layers as well. So again, I'm just going around the face there, just putting a shadow line in, and I will blend that into the skin around it. So always looking at the reference photo, see where those shadows are. I'm not just placing them randomly, I am looking at the photograph all the time. All these shadows will give the shape of the face, so the shape of the cheeks and the skull and everything. So the shadows and the highlights will, they are really, really important to get them in the right place, as well as getting the values right as well, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. So that's blended in quite nicely too. Just darken up the eyelid. And then above the eye, over the eyebrows there too. And then there's this shadow here that runs along the left side of the nose there. I'm just going to paint over that as well. And again, I've just cleaned the brush and dried it, and I'm just tickling the edges of that little shadow that I've put on there just to blend that in into the surroundings there. Just be careful around the nose here. It's like quite a dark shadow under the nose that's cast obviously with the light shining down from above on that right side, which will then cast shadows on that left side of the face there. Here I'm just trying to give some shape to that nose by putting some shadows in around the nostril. I'm going to go around, there's like a little highlight on the tip of the nose there. I'm going to be careful not to go over that too much. Just adding a little bit more water to the paint. So a little bit more water, so I want it to be the same tone on the centre of the forehead, but it's not going to be as dark as the sides there where the shadow is cast on the left and then under the hair on the right. So I'm still using the same paint, just I've mixed a little bit more water into it just to go over these lighter areas now. So I feel like I've covered all the dark areas for now, and then I'll go over the lighter areas with just a lighter mix or a more watery mix of the same colour. See, there's a highlight going down the side of the nose there as well. I've marked that in with a bit of pencil. So I've gone around that onto the eyebrows. So this whole right side of the face is going to be a little bit lighter. Blend everything in. Paint's a little bit more concentrated and thicker in the corner there, where it's kind of gathered in the edges of the palette, and then the area to the bottom right there is more watery, so I've just dropped my brush into the more concentrated part of the palette where there's more concentrated mix, just to add some more shadows in around this hair and around that eye there as well. So this bottom right part of the palette's the watery bit. I'm just going to blend that darker shade into the skin around it, just to blend that in, try and keep it nice and smooth. So the cheeks a little bit darker, try and get that shape in. So that there's a shadow there just on that upper lip cast by the nose, so I'm just trying to get that in as well, roughly, a rough guide to it. Keep that cupid's bow lighter than the two little bits next to it, so it looks like there's a bit of a dip under the nose there for the cupid's bow. So it's usually a dark area under the lip where it's it's in shadow from the lip above, especially with the lights come from this angle. There will be a little bit of a dark area under the lip as well, so we'll get that in. So every time my brush goes off the screen there on the right, I'm just either cleaning it and drying it, or just drying it on a little bit of tissue just to take some of the water off there or the paint off there. There's lots of little dark areas in the ear as well, so make sure you get those in place. Doesn't have to be exact to the photograph, I wouldn't worry too much. There's a little bit of shadow cast on that little section there by that hair strand that's fallen onto her face, so just kind of put a little bit of a darker mix onto that as well, just underneath the hair. And then the neck is going to be darker again, because obviously there's a shadow cast there by everything onto the neck, so the ear and the cheek and the chin and the hair as well. So I'm just looking at that reference photo as a guide, and I'm putting those darker shadows where I see them on the photograph. So there's darker areas on the neck, obviously where the shadow's been cast, and then there's some lighter little highlighted areas as well. So just keep an eye on that photograph and just place those where you see them. Sometimes if the light is just shining, straight ahead and there's no shadows on the neck, and it can just look a little bit plain, so it's nice when you get a photograph and there's lots of different values on the neck, so it's darker under the chin, you can see the collarbone and things, so it's got a nice shape to the neck and some nice shadows on this neck. So I'm just trying to go over any areas that look a little bit patchy, just trying to smooth those out a little bit. It looks a little bit strange at the moment because the eyes aren't drawn in and the hair as well, so it can look a little bit strange for a little while, but it all comes together when you start adding all these other little areas in, start putting paint on the hair, filling in those pupils and the iris and things and the lips. I always find it quite fascinating when I see like little shorts on Instagram and Facebook, and the artist has done the eyes perfect and eyelashes and everything, just that little eye area, and then they start moving out onto the rest of the face. I don't know how they match up the skin colour, and I suppose it's in layers and it does look a little bit less smooth and things, but I do like the effect. I prefer to do it this way, just do everything at once, get that skin layer down, and then put those details in on top, rather than doing a really detailed area and then moving on to another area, just in case I might mess up the painting if I do the eyes perfect and then move on to the lips. I might ruin the lips and then I've wasted a lot of time doing the eyes. So yeah, just take it easy, take it slow, and just do step by step, just while you're starting out. So as I'm working here, the paper's still damp with the paint underneath, so I'm just dropping more paint on top, just so that blends in nicely, doesn't bloom or anything, it just kind of blends without me having to physically blend it out. So yeah, I'm just darkening up these little shadows on the neck again. I've done the side of the face there on the left. It'll all lighten up quite a bit, but I just wanted to get those, you know, subtle changes in skin value, the skin tone. You can see there's usually a little dark shadow there under the lip, under that bottom lip. Just added a little bit more of that Quin Rose to the mix and just going over, doing a little wash over the lips as well. So because it's got the same base colour, that Quin Rose, it's going to blend nicely into the skin around it, even if it bleeds into the paint around it or the paper around it, because that skin layer might be a little bit damp still, it doesn't matter. Yeah, just try and stay within the lines, but if it does bleed out onto the skin around it, don't worry too much. So I'm just doing a light layer. I'm going to leave a few little white areas on the lip just to indicate where these like little highlights might be. I'm just going to do these little lines tickling down just to leave some little white gaps, just to give that indication of the lips being a little bit moist with the lipstick. So we're going to let that dry. You can speed it up with a hairdryer if you like. Now we're going to move on to the hair. So I've been doing another painting in between while this is dried, so there is some paint on the palette there, don't worry too much about what colour they are. I'm just adding some of this burnt umber onto the palette, some watery burnt umber. I'm just going to do a little wash over the hair, so as long as it's like a light brown colour, and just do a wash over the hair, try and follow the hair direction as best you can. Now that the skin is dry, the brown shouldn't bleed onto the skin at all. I'm using this Jennifer Rose mop brush size 10 still. I could probably have used a bigger brush for this part, maybe the size 12 in the silver black velvet brush, but yeah, I just had this in my hand, so I just carried on with it. So you can see I'm going with the hair direction. There's lots of going on in this hair, there's lots of different changes in direction, lots of little sections, so I'm just trying to keep to that pattern as best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. So a little bit more complicated than just like a straight, you know, loose hairstyle. This one's obviously up in a bun. It's more like a wedding kind of hairdo, like an up hairdo. So it's got like little strands coming down. It's got, you know, like a little bun at the back. So it's, yeah, a nice one to do to practice with. Just getting some brown on that little hair strand coming onto the face as well. Just filling in all these little gaps. There's a couple of little sections on this back area here. Just, you know, fill them in for now. You can leave little white gaps like I have as well if you want to. We'll be going over this again with lots of darker layers anyway, so don't worry too much at this stage. Some hair there that crosses the ear and then comes down onto some little hair strands that come onto the neck as well that I've drawn in pencil. Just moving on to the left side there, I'm going to do the same. Just follow the hair direction to try and get those little curls in that you can see on the photograph. Lots of little wispy hairs coming off the main head of hair as well. This will dry quite light. This is just an underlayer. This is as long as it's like a nice light brown colour that's quite watery. And you can use any colour. You could use burnt sienna if you wanted to as well. So on the palette there, I've got like a grey, which I've made from a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of French ultramarine blue. So you can use any grey, you can use neutral tint. I just had that there because I'd had it from a previous painting. So just a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of the French ultramarine blue, and that comes up with like a nice warm, natural grey colour. So that's what I've put on the shirt there. You can go with any colour you want. You could do it green or purple. You can do any colour that you want. You can change it up as you like. I just thought I would stick to, you know, like a light grey shirt or off-white shirt. So that's what I've done there. I've just put a light layer on there. And when I've got that colour on my paintbrush, I'm just putting a little bit of that grey onto the eye there. So I'm going over the whites of the eyes with this. I usually use this mix, burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue, for the whites of eyes and for teeth as well. I usually use it for, just because I don't want the eyes to be bright white. So I've let that dry. Again, speed it up with a hairdryer if you like. It's absolutely up to you. So I'm taking some more of that Quin Rose onto the palette. I'm just going over those lips again, just to darken them up, make them stand out a little bit. And this is the Michael Klein brush size 2 I'm using at the moment. This brush is really good. When I first got it, it had a lovely point to it, but it's just slowly blunted. So that's why I got the silver black velvet brush in the size 2 to replace it, but I found that one's too soft, so I do still use this smaller brush from time to time. I wouldn't use it for eyelashes or anything, it's too blunt, but just to get into these little areas that don't need any, you know, fine detail, then I would just use the Michael Klein brush. I'm just dropping a little bit of that rose colour into the folds within the ear as well, just to darken those up. I've just took a little bit of that burnt umber just to darken that hair strand there that's going across the ear, just so I don't lose where that is. So this is French ultramarine blue again, just adding a little bit more to that grey mix that I had. So that's made like a bluey grey colour. I'm just going over the iris there within each eye just to get that in place. Make sure that it's a circle that you're drawing in there as well. So that looks a little bit better already, just getting those irises drawn in. You can still see the pupil that's been drawn in with the pencil mark as well. So I'm just adding a little bit of burnt sienna to that blue, just to make it a little bit more of a grey mix rather than on the blue side. And a little bit of water to it. And then I'm just going to go over the teeth with that, because the teeth aren't bright white, they're in shadow but within those lips, so I don't want them to be bright white on the paper, so I've just put a tiny little layer over those teeth. So the same mix there, I've just added a little bit of neutral tint just to darken that grey up, just to fill in the nostrils. And those little dark areas within the mouth there beside the teeth. So getting the shape of that ear fold in. And I'm going to let that dry now. So again, you can speed that up with a hairdryer or leave it for a few hours or overnight, whichever you prefer. So again, this is Quin Rose on the palette there. I've just added a little bit of water to it to make a watery mix, and this time I'm going to add this sap green to it. So red and green kind of make a nice like purple colour, or rose and green, so it's really nice for shadow areas. So you know, you can add blue to the red to make a purple, but I do find that green and this rose colour, or green and the pyrrole red, make a really nice colour to do shadows with. That's what I'm doing now. I'm just mixing this little purpley brown colour, maroon type colour. So you can obviously vary the tone of this colour by adding more green or more red, so just have a little experiment if you've got these colours in your palette. So I'm taking the Michael Klein brush in the size 2, so it's quite a watery mix. And I'm going to go over some of these details with this, so the eyebrows and things, just to get those in so that they're not lost under further layers of the skin layers I'm going to do. So find that the more layers you put on the skin, these little pencil lines that we did initially just start to disappear. So I'm just going to reinforce those now. I just thought it'd be the right time to do that. So I'm just getting these eyebrows in place, getting the shape and the thickness in, the general position of them. Same on the left side there, get that in. I should probably be using the silver black velvet brush in the size 2 for this, just to make those lines a little bit sharper, but because it's an underlay it doesn't matter too much. I'm so sorry, the dog is snoring next to me. I'm so sorry if you can hear that, it's quite loud. Just getting these little eyelid creases in as well. It's a very watery mix, very subtle what we're adding, but we're just getting those in place just to keep that shape there so we don't lose those pencil lines. So I say this a lot in my other videos, apologies for any background noise. I've got a boxer dog and when he's asleep he snores quite loudly. He's been for a long walk this morning, he's absolutely wrecked, so he's in a deep sleep next to me there. I can't leave him alone because he tends to wait till I leave the room and then he starts to jump up on the counter or whatever in the kitchen, and he just basically takes what he wants. He ate I think it was 8 OXO cubes the other week. He got into the cupboard and ate 8 OXO cubes, which is really, really dangerous, so he vomited them up, thank God. But yeah, I can't leave him, so unfortunately we'll just have to put up with this background noise. I just want to get these videos done, voiceovers done, so I can get these up on Patreon. Yeah, it takes long enough to do them without having to wait for the house to be completely quiet, or you know, if I left the room he'd probably realise I'd gone and then he'd be, you know, he'd cry for me. So yeah, apologies, we'll just have to carry on. It's getting louder. So yeah, I'm just doing these shadows here under the eye and around the side of the eye there that's cast from that nose again. Found this the nostril on the left there a little bit hard to get the shape in. I couldn't really see it very well on the photograph, maybe because it's AI. They usually get noses and teeth a little bit off, so this nose I couldn't really kind of capture the exact shape of it without really looking at it and then, you know, or imagining what it should look like from, you know, experience and just drawing it in myself. So we'll yeah, just kind of try our best. So there's that shadow underneath the nostril there. I'm just trying to get that in. So it looks quite natural on the photograph, but when I painted it in, I just didn't feel like it looked like a natural place for the shadow to be. But you know, I just put in what I could see for now. So when you are picking reference photos and you're searching online for them, you have to be quite careful. So if you are wanting to do a painting of somebody's face and you want to sell prints of it or sell the painting, then you have to be really careful of copyright issues. If it's of a celebrity, for example, then you'd need permission from the photographer or from the celebrity or whoever, if you want to make money from that painting. When you know, just do a search online, you go on to Pinterest or what have you, I don't see any harm in just practicing from a photograph. You know, posting it on social media, as long as you're not making any money from it, you're not selling it or advertising it, making prints from it, I don't see any harm from that. I do try and choose photographs that are natural, you know, that are of you know, real people, but I do find photographs of unless it's a really good photographer and really good camera, those details aren't there, they're a little bit blurry, whereas these AI produced ones, they're usually really clear, you can see all the details on them. So when you're starting out, you don't want to be trying to fill in the gaps and guess and things. You want to have a really clear photo to work from. So for that reason, I am using, you know, some AI photographs. And I've said in a previous video, you know, the problem with those is sometimes the details are a little bit off, so that the teeth can look a little bit strange, or the iris isn't perfectly round. The nose and the nostrils can look a little bit weird. So you just have to adjust for that and just use experience and what you, from painting other faces of real people. You can kind of hopefully judge after a little while, what looks off and how you can fix it. So yeah, some people, might say, oh, you shouldn't be drawing from AI photographs. I just want to draw from photographs that are really, really clear, so that we can follow along together and that are free as well. So I can't remember who it was now, but I joined a Patreon a year or so ago. I was doing some colour pencil wildlife images, and all the reference photos this artist had were taking me to links to a website, and I had to pay £5 just to access the photograph. They had a big watermark across them, so the last thing you need is me putting photographs up that you have to pay for. You can find these on Pixabay or Pixels or on Pinterest. Just as long as you're not selling them, making any money off them, I don't see any harm in using them just as a reference, as a guide, and then just putting your own stamp on it. But yeah, if you've got any thoughts on this, then leave them in the comments below. It's an interesting subject, really. So I'm just still adding all these little shadows here, just as I was talking, darkening up the neck shadows. So using that same colour, that same Quin Rose sap green colour. Just darkening up those ear folds again, just trying to get some shape to the ear. So the Cupid's bow there looks a little bit off. I have to fix that later, just let it dry and then fix it. It looks like the shape of it's a little bit off centre. Just getting some shadow there under the hairline. And again under that little hair strand that's coming onto the face, that's casting a shadow on the face, so get that in as well. So anyway, you can see a shadow cast, just pop this colour on, blend it into the skin, and yeah, just trying to slowly darken up these areas. We're not going too dark too soon, we just want to keep it light. In case we make a mistake, we want to be able to correct it or blend it out, so don't go too dark too quickly. So I'm still using the same colour again. I'm just doing a little wash over the lips, just to try and get that tone to match the tone of the lips with the skin as well. So this paper's dealing quite well with the layers that I'm putting on so far. It's not buckling, it's not bending or anything, there's no bubbles. Yeah, and it's all blending in quite nicely. I'll definitely be using this paper again. The Saunders Waterford cold pressed is quite nice as well. It's quite similar to this one. And then there's another one that I've just bought, a pad off AliExpress. I think it's called Pontonaise or something I've seen. I think it was a Ukrainian watercolour artist using it. And it looks quite similar to the Canson and the Saunders Waterford as well. So I'm going to have a little go at that with another painting. So I'll upload that when I've finished it. It's a photograph of a woman. She's got her eyes closed, she's got purpley pink hair, so watch out for that one. I wanted to use a variety of different papers across these tutorials, not just stick to one, just in case you might not like the certain the paper that I'm using. You might not like or not be able to get it, or you might find it's too expensive. So I am using a variety of different papers across all the tutorials just to test them out, and yeah, just to give you a chance to see what each one can do. So here I've just mixed a bit of blue and a bit of green just to get like obviously a bluey green colour for the iris. I'm just going to go over the iris with this colour. You could just use blue for this if you haven't got green, it's not a problem. So I'm just going over the iris with this. Make sure I draw in what I can see. So if I can see, you know, the whole of the bottom and the way it's curved round. Obviously you can't see the top of the iris usually. When you see a face, you can't see the top of the iris. Sometimes if they're looking in a certain way, you can see the bottom of the iris. So it's like, you know, cut off at the top and then rounded at the bottom. Sometimes you don't see the top or the bottom and you can just see the edges of it. So this will, you know, the shape of the iris will determine, you know, the expression that she's got. So just keep, you know, keep as close as you can to the photograph when you're doing that. It's very unlikely that you'll be able to see the whole circle unless the expressions are really, you know, surprised, looks really surprised, and her eyes are wide open, which is, you know, not often, you know, a photograph that I wouldn't choose to do anyway. So I've just mixed a little bit of this grey colour up again with that burnt sienna and the French ultramarine blue. So I'm just going over the teeth again with that and just dropping a little bit into the whites of the eyes as well. Just be careful not to touch the iris. Obviously you've you know, only just put the paint on the iris. You don't want that to blend out or anything. You can wait before you do this stage if you feel a little bit less confident, or you feel like you're going to go and touch the iris and it's going to bleed out then, or maybe, you know, just dry it with a hairdryer or something before you do this. Absolutely fine. Sometimes I can be a little bit impatient, yeah, and I just kind of carry on, and I probably go near areas that I shouldn't do at times. So this is burnt umber again. Just add a little bit of water to that, still quite a thick mix. And I'm going to darken that up with a little bit of neutral tint. So it's a really dark brown, this colour. This time I've got the silver black velvet brush in a size 2. I'm just going to soak that brush with the colour and then just have a little practice with the movements, because I'm going to start doing these eyebrows more defined now, getting those hairs in. So I'm just tickling the paint on, just doing little swipe motions, just getting, you know, with the hair direction. You can see the hair direction of the eyebrows, or kinds of, you know, guess with it which direction the hairs are going in, so just follow that. Just keep to the shape that's underneath. Sometimes you have to get your hands in certain angles to do this, so apologies for, you know, times I do cover up what I'm doing with my hand just to get to certain angles, especially when I'm doing the eyelashes. I don't notice until I'm doing the voiceovers that I've actually covered the area up with my hand, so yeah, I need to sort something out with that, maybe have another camera when I'm doing eyelashes just to film what I'm doing there. Just using this dark brown colour, just going over these eyebrows. It's going to look a little bit strange now because obviously the hair is really, really light. And she's got no eyelashes there or anything. Everything's all a little bit pale. And then we've stuck these really dark eyebrows on, so it's going to look a little bit strange for a while. So I'm just taking the silver black velvet brush, and this is the size 8. I'm just going to do a layer on the hair with this. So I'm still going to be able to show some of those strands, those lighter strands coming through. This is not the darkest that it's going to be, this is going to lighten up as well, but I just wanted to get some texture on the hair, get some hair strands on there, get some hair direction, just get the shape in of all those little sections that we were talking about before. Let some of that, you know, that light browny blondie colour shine through. Doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you get the general shape of the hair. So I'm going to try and stick to those little sections. So you can see there's a section at the top, and then there's a section at the back. There's a bit of hair that flows onto the face, which I'm putting in now, and then that curls up into that bun at the back as well. So just try and follow the shape. If there's any really dark strands in there, make sure you get those in. If there's any highlighted areas, then maybe skip a few little lines just so that you can see that hair shining through. You don't want it to look like Helma's head, like just one piece of hair. You want it to have a bit of texture, some light areas, some dark areas. Just makes it look a lot more natural. So again, there's another little section there. I'm just trying to draw that in. There's a section at the top that's separate as well. So this is still an underlayer, but it was just giving a little bit more of an idea of where all these hairs are flowing, how the hairstyle is. So I think I'm just going to let this footage run for a little bit so you can watch me do the hair. There's nothing really more that I can say when I'm doing hair, and take a little bit of a bit long to do, and if you just follow along and just get those hair strands in place, and I'll pop in here and there if I need to say anything. But yeah, if you've got any questions about doing hair, then you can pop them below. But I'm just going to let this footage run for a little while, and I'll come back in a bit. Okay, so now we've finished the hair, I'm just going to reinforce those little creases above the eyes there, the same colour again. Just darken those up. Let's make sure you get the shape right. So keep looking at the eye on the photograph, just see how this line flows compared to, you know, the line, you know, the upper line of the eye. So just follow that shape. Just going to do this top line over the eye there as well. So that's going to be quite dark because of the eyelashes. Let's get that shape in before it disappears beneath all the skin layers. Little bit of a line on the bottom there, just going to you know, just put that in place. It'll all fade and go a little bit lighter anyway. And I'm just going to wash and dry the brush and then just tickle that line there just to bring that shadow down. Same on the right side. So I've got no paint on this brush, I've just cleaned and dried it and I'm just tickling that paint just so it blends out a little bit. So I've just put a little bit more paint on the brush and I'm just drawing that line in there below. Be very careful here, you don't want to mess up the shape of the eye after, you know, you've done quite a lot on the painting already. Just be very careful. If you do put it in the wrong place, then you can always take a clean damp brush and just scrub at that mark that you put on there, maybe dab it with some kitchen roll and then you should be able to fade it enough that you can go on top again. Again, just putting some details in the ear as well. Just going over the nostril with the same colour, the same dark brown colour. And just here, just trying to mark in with that, where that left nostril would be. It's quite difficult to see on the photograph. It looks a little bit off that side of the nose, so I'm just trying to guess really where it would be. And here I remember thinking I should not have done this shadow with this brown colour. I should have just stuck to the, you know, the purple colour that I had, the Quin Rose and the sap green. I should have stayed with that colour. I don't like the way, even though it looks like a brownish colour on the photograph, I didn't like how it you know, appeared on the painting. So if you are, you know, following along in time, then don't put this brown underneath the nose there. I'd rather you use, you know, like a purpley colour instead, because I did feel like it kind of messed up that side of the nose a little bit. I wasn't happy with it. Just completely the wrong tone really. So I'm just darkening up the shadows there around the hairline with the same brown colour, it's fine. Just darkening that shadow up above that crease as well. Just reinforcing the shape of that face on that left side, just with this darker colour, and blending it out into the purple that's underneath. So although this is the same colour that I used on the hair, I'm adding quite a lot of water on the palette there, you can't see it, but so I used quite a thick mix for the eyebrows, a watery mix of the same colour for the hair, and then the darker mix then again for the crease above the eyes, and now I'm using quite a watery mix of it as well. So yeah, obviously what I'm putting on the paper now is not the same concentration as what I put on the eyebrows or on those nostrils, so just, water that paint down using the same colour, so you've got the same tone, it's just adding more water to it, that's all. So here this Cupid's bow doesn't look quite right to me, so that's another thing that looks a little bit off around this nose. I wasn't very happy with it. I remember thinking yeah, again just darkening that shadow up just while the paper's still wet, so anything that I put on the paper in these areas now is just going to blend into the paper nice. It's not going to bloom or anything, it's just going to blend into those layers underneath. So in this photograph the skin is super smooth, there's not many blemishes or anything like that, there's no freckles, so I'm just going to try and do this skin really smooth, like I see in the photograph. There's no skin texture that you can see or anything, there's no pores, it's just like perfect porcelain skin, isn't it? So we're just going to try and capture that. So swapped here to the Winsor & Newton size 5 just to speed things up a little bit, to go over these shadows, with these shadows a little bit larger. To speed things up, this brush is really good for blending and scrubbing edges as well. Sometimes forget that I've got this brush in my hand and I just carry on with it, but it's an old brush, it's a cheap brush, but it's really effective. So I really recommend, if you can get hold of a little set of these Winsor & Newton foundation brushes. This is the size 5, the size 6 is also very good. They come in a little pack with different brushes in, and I just took these 2 brushes out, the size 5 and 6, and then discarded the rest because I didn't really use them. I think they're more like acrylic brushes than anything else, rather than watercolour brushes, but they work really well. So just darkening up the shadows around the eyes there with the same brown colour, just very watery mix of it. Just scrubbing the paper, just blending that in. Just doing the same ones that left eye, just darkening up that shadow underneath. And just blending that out. So coming to the end of this video now, there's a few minutes left. We've done quite a lot in this one sitting. So if you think from sketch to this in 55-56 minutes is quite good going. We've done quite a lot. I know we've took a couple of breaks to dry the painting, so with a hairdryer and things, but realistically, if you've only taken just under an hour to do this much, it's a big chunk of the painting done already, so we're in a good position for part 2 and part 3. So we'll just crack on with the next parts. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. If you do follow along with any of these tutorials, I'd love you to share them on social media. I would love you to tag me in them. It really helped my Patreon grow. If anyone who's interested, or any groups that are looking for tutorials, cheap tutorials for watercolour portraits, then do pass my name over. I'd love any help that I can get, really, just to be able to carry on doing them. I really enjoy doing them, and I hope you are too. I hope you're managing to follow along. I hope you can understand my accent okay. If there's any questions at all, obviously just pop those in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything if I can. So let your painting dry now properly, maybe leave it overnight. We've done quite a lot of layers, so you want it to dry fully really before you carry on, and I will speak to you in part 2. Bye for now.